live.
Oh. Worst timing.
Cough right in there. Okay. Are you ready?
I'm
Have you got any
ready.
final thoughts you want to get off your mind?
No.
Sure?
Yeah.
Okay. Right. So, Angharad, welcome to the Girls to the Front podcast.
Hi.
Do you want to start off by introducing yourself?
Yeah. I'm Angharad. I am a business owner. I run Wild Hats Vintage. A mother to a gorgeous boy. Noah, if you ever listen to this, I love you. You're the best thing ever.
No, that was too wholesome. Too wholesome. I love that.
He's the best. And yeah, an adventurer. Wild
Fucking
hat
love that.
for sure.
Yes. Right. Let's start off by talking about Wild Hats Vintage.
Okay.
Go. What is it?
That wasn't a burp, by the way. So Wild Hats Vintage, it's my own business. It's I basically sell vintage clothes and customize vintage jackets. But it's not about the clothes. It's all about just wearing whatever the hell you want. It's about being proud of who you are and just being you, being wild,
I
being
love it so
weird.
much.
Just, yeah.
It's totally more a mindset than like buying clothes, which I really love.
1000%. Like, I love the clothes, but it's more about how you feel about yourself.
Do you think it's always been like, like there's always part of you that's like love the clothes and then you're like, oh, I can tie these two things together? Or were you like one came first and then the other one came second?
They kind of came together. So, like, growing up, I used to always be the one friend that would wear weird stuff. Like, growing up, my friends were like...
I need to know an example of what is being defined as weird here.
Well, I don't think it's weird, but at the time. So, do you know, like, now it's actually a thing where you could wear, like, a dress over jeans.
Right, yeah.
Apparently that's a thing now. Well, I was doing that back in the day.
Everyone's like, oh my God. Now you're like, I was so fashion forward. Like, everyone's doing it now.
Or I'd put a scarf around me and then a belt and it would look like a top over, yeah. I don't know, just weird.
Also,
but
these are now tips that you can now take forward from Angharad. I really hope that, like, next week, people that have listened to this podcast are like,
Jeans
so I
and a
went
dress.
out wearing a scarf and a belt and I got so many compliments. It's like that scene in Mean Girls when they're like, I saw Regina George wearing army pants and flip-flops. So I went out and bought army pants and flip-flops.
yes, I'm here for the dress and the jeans. Like, pretty on top, but practical on bottom.
I love that so much.
But yeah, my friends would always be like, you do you, like, you know, they just used to it. I used to always ask my dad, do I look okay in this? And he'd be like, do you like it? I'd be like, yeah, I fucking love it. And he'd be like, that's all that matters then.
Oh my God,
So,
I love... Should we reframe everything in life to be like, do I look okay? No. Does it make you happy?
Yeah.
Like, that should be the key takeaway, I think. That would be
1000%.
phenomenal. Oh, I love that so much.
I
Just
know.
imagine that's how we approach life.
I know, it'd be so much better, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
Just
instead
do
of
you.
being like, do I look okay? Someone needs to validate me. No, validate yourself.
1000%. That's on my list, actually.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll talk about that in a minute. I will not gonna
Skipping
get into-
ahead.
Yeah, I know, sorry. Yeah, so like it came, so you had a job, didn't you?
Yes.
Like an adult job, we'll call it.
Yeah, proper job, I call it, but that's not, you know, this is a proper job as well.
Yeah.
So I was an operations manager for a charity, which I adored, you know, helping people. It was like the best thing ever, but a 9 to 5, like being stuck inside, it just it drove me wild in the end, to be honest. And, you know, it was really good money, but then what's the point in having lots of money if you can't do the things you love or if you're not happy? No.
Exactly. If you've got no time to do it, why are you doing what's the point in
No,
making money?
Exactly.
Yeah. So packed it all in.
Yeah, packed it all in. Started this up now. It's coming up to a year
Oh my
since
God.
I started it.
That's gone so fast.
Yeah, it's crazy. A little bit bored of it. But it's up and down, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. Like nothing is going to be like perfectly linear. So what, like, okay, this is interesting. What has made you bored of it? Like, what is that? Do you think?
Oh, I don't know. Let's not even go there. I'm not
Okay,
sure where.
I think I was like, this topic was actually off limits, and you're
Let's move on.
actually touching on it. No, I think it's important to like remind people that these things aren't always like.
Yeah. Do you know what? I think with me, through life, I just like doing lots of different things. And that's not the norm, or at least that's what we get taught growing up. Like, you have to find what you're good at, stick to that, and that's what you do for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And for me, that literally just sounds like my worst nightmare. Why do I have to do that?
Yeah, exactly.
Why? I don't want to do that. I want to do this, and I want to do that. And then I want to go do something else for a little bit, and then come back to that.
Yeah, like normalize the fact that you don't have to have a career for 20 years. Like you
Yeah.
can do something for 2 and then be like, nah, I'm going to do something. My sister actually touched on this in her episode where she's like, I actually think some people wrap change up as like a really bad thing. And actually being able to change and do different things all the time is actually a huge positive. And like
Hell yeah.
recognizing when you need to change as well is huge.
Yeah.
But I think you've created a brand that lends itself really well to being able to like adapt and amend to what you feel like at that given time.
Yeah.
So like you introduce yourself as an adventurer.
Yes.
So let's dive into that a bit more. So like Wild Hearts is about being wild and free.
Yes.
And that has a huge part of being an adventurer.
Absolutely.
So how would you define your adventuring? Like what does it look like?
For me, so being out in nature, away from everyday life, humanity, as far away as I can get, for me, that is just pure calm. But also, like, just exploring somewhere new, being, like, on a path and being, like, seeing something in the distance, like trees or a view, and I'm like,
Yeah.
what's up there? What's around there? And it's like, let's go.
Yeah.
Then I'm like 40k into a hike and I'm like, oh gosh, I need to get back before
I'm
it's
taking
dark.
another 20k detour because I saw this nice tree.
Literally.
So I'm like, oh. No, I think it's awesome. Like it really like is like a no rules approach to just being outside, which I think is awesome.
Yeah, 100%.
Have you always loved being outside, or is it something you discovered?
So growing up, like as a child, we were always outside. We were like brought up on my father's best friend farm, so we kind of had the best childhood in that sense. Just being outside, we were allowed to just run around, do things, you know, kids probably aren't really allowed to do. Nothing bad.
No, I know what you mean though.
Like no drugs or anything.
What you mean is like risky play, basically.
100% risky play, yeah. You know, it would be
Not
like...
drugs, it wasn't drugs.
No, gosh, no.
I love that that's where your brain went to. Just as a caveat, my dad did not make me do drugs. That was not part of it. It was just a lot of risky play.
I just mean like jumping on hay
Yeah.
bales that were like 15 feet in the air, you know. But so like obviously the older I got, like when I went into my teens and stuff, the less time I spent outdoors. I didn't even realize I could just go out hiking really until I was in my kind of adulthood, or you know. And even then, I was always waiting for people to kind of like be able to come with me because I wouldn't want to go by myself. And in the end, I was just like, oh, do you know what? Everyone's life's so busy. I just need to be brave and just start going by myself. And I did. And I'm so glad that I did, because like now I can't imagine life without being able to just put my rucksack on and my boots and just go for the day.
Yeah. Do you remember the first time you were like, fuck it, I'm not waiting for permission, I'm just going to go?
I can't. No, I can't. I remember the feeling.
Yeah.
Honestly, it probably wasn't until lockdown.
No way.
Yeah.
That's actually really recently as well when you think about it. Yeah.
It's not like, you know, my early 20s. Yeah, lockdown I started kind of, obviously you could only leave your house. So we had like a little lane at the top of the road that like took you into the countryside, which I'm very, you know, lucky that that existed. And that gave me like a bit of confidence. And then after that, it was just like, go big or go home.
All in, all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, that's when I booked the ultra thing. Yeah.
Yeah, so did you book that in lockdown?
No, actually, I booked that before lockdown, right? But that was
Oh my
before I
God.
was doing any hiking.
Right, okay.
And when I told, so the ultra thing is 100k in the Lake District. I told my dad that I was going to do it, and he was like, what's wrong with you? There's no way you can do that. And me being me, it was like, what do you mean? It's just walking. It's putting one foot in front of the other. Like, how hard can it be? Boy, was I wrong.
It's mad. when you talk about walking challenges, unless you walk
Yeah.
regularly, as in like you go hiking, I
Yeah.
don't think you have an appreciation of how tough these things can be. Like,
No.
I consider myself as like a relatively fit human, and
Yeah.
some of the hikes that me and Kerry have done, like I've almost died on, like just being like, this is really hard. But when you talk to people, be like, oh, we walked like 6k up a mountain, people are like, oh, right, that seems like easy because you just walk. And
Yeah.
like, no, like these things are actually really hard. So when you were like, I'm doing 100k walk, I was like, what the fuck? It's so far, like so
It
far.
is.
What is like is it for a charity itself, or is it just like an event?
No, so it's an event. You don't have to do it for a charity, but most people do.
Yeah.
They encourage you to do it. They raise so much money for different charities
No
by
way.
doing these. Yeah, like it's a really good cause. Yeah, so I did a Fandy's Man Club, which was class, but people get to choose wherever they want to do, really.
Yeah. Oh, that's really cool. So
Yeah.
you've done it twice,
Yes.
technically.
Yeah, technically. So the first time, so I was supposed to do it before COVID,
Yeah.
and then it got postponed. When the restrictions eased, I tried it for the first time. And this was when I was like, not really doing much walking. I was like
Yeah.
5k in lockdown. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not hiking. It was just like on the road, onto a country road. No mountains, nothing. But me
I
being...
love the confidence of being like, wow, I'm doing this, 100k.
I'm not sure if that's like my superpower or the downside
Do
to
you know
me.
now that I know you, I'm like, this makes total sense. You know, like if you'd have told me this before, I'd been like, what? Like this makes like this. What the fuck is this business thing? And now you're like, I'm like, oh yeah, this makes sense. That Angharad's brain weird like this.
Yeah.
You were like, I did 5k, so now I'm gonna do 100k.
Yeah, basically. So if I got something in my head, I'm just like, I can do it.
Yeah.
It could be ridiculous, but in my head, I'm like, I can do it. Turns out I couldn't do it.
Now I think this is really important to talk about.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, carry on.
Yeah, so I turned up. I was really excited. Did, zero training really. But, I was all in. I thought I definitely was not, I was going to do it.
Yeah.
No, it was horrendous.
So what went through? What went through your mind?
So at the start, it was great.
Yeah.
Got to the first peak and I was like, oh, this is a bit of a beast.
Yeah. So
isn't it?
also for context, this walk is not just a flat walk for 100k. This walk goes over peaks and has checkpoints, and it's like really legit. Like it's
a big hill, like a lot of big hills. The terrain's really rocky, so you gotta know what you're doing.
Yeah,
basically.
exactly. Yeah.
And I didn't, but we went in, and it was great. I was loving life, I have to say, but it wasn't until I hit like 37k, and all of my bones started to hurt, and I was like,
It's like an
oh
internal
dear
ache.
Lord, what have
Yeah.
I done? But also, I didn't train, but I bought new walking boots like the week before. Which is a big no-no, guys, if you're doing anything like this. Which
Yeah.
is common sense, but... and I pulled a muscle in my toe, right, at the first 5k. I didn't even know you had, like, proper muscles in your toes. I was like, what's this
my
weird
God.
feeling in my big toe? I was like, this ain't right.
Yeah.
So I think it was the big toe that set everything else off. Anyway, I eventually got to basically at the halfway point. So it was actually around 57k. And I couldn't do it. I sat down at a checkpoint and I phoned my partner at the time. Really upset because I was just in so much agony. And in my head, I was like, no, I can do
Yeah.
this. But my body was literally like screaming. He was like, stand up. I was like, what do you mean? He was like, stand up. And I was like, I can't. And he was like, oh, that's it. Well, you've done enough. Like,
Yeah,
you can't
yeah.
do more. But I was so upset. I was so upset. In my head, I 100% believed I was going to do it. But it's okay.
Yeah.
I try my best.
Yeah, exactly.
I say I try my best. I did, but there's loads of things I could have done beforehand, which I did this time.
Right, okay.
And smashed it.
Yes, you fucking did. Okay, so I think this is a really important lesson in like that it is totally fine to fail.
Yeah.
when you've given your best and you've given your all and you acknowledge that like you are at a point of like, I can't do anything more. Like I've done everything. I've controlled what I could control.
Yeah.
And I've just like, for you, you're like, my body will not let me go any further. But what I think is the best lesson in this is that you can just pick yourself up and try again.
Absolutely.
And you can then learn loads of lessons from it and then absolutely smash it the next time you come to do it.
100%.
So you learned so much and then you just
yeah
completely smashed it the second time.
Yeah, it was really hard to admit I couldn't carry on. It was really hard.
Yeah.
But it was the right thing to do. And I'm glad I did, you know, like, well, not glad I did, but I had to. Like,
yeah.
But like you said, I couldn't give any more.
No.
But this time round, in my head, this time I was like, definitely doing it this time.
Your whole attitude in the run up to it was like, no, there's no option. Like, I'm doing it.
Absolutely.
Which I think, again, is like a really important lesson in like positive self-talk and like believing in yourself.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I trained, you know, quite a bit. I went on longer walks. Like, hiking has been my life for the last 2 years. It's like the one thing that gives my mind like total calm and quietness. Because my brain is like 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like peace when I'm out there.
So when you go outside, do you feel like your brain is just completely quiet?
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Or like, especially when I'm out on the mountains, like I'm not thinking about any problems or anything to do with my everyday life. I'm just like, just in where I belong. That's how I feel, basically. Like, I love so it, much. And I see the sheep and looking at the sky and the colours of the mountains. Like, I just embrace it completely.
Yeah.
But it just, my brain is like,
I feel like everyone has that somewhere.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't have to obviously be like hiking, but
No.
I think that everyone has an activity or everyone has something where their brain will just be totally quiet. And I think you have to spend a lot of your time trying to figure out what that is, which is why it's important to try new things and to like take lessons from people and stuff. So for some people it's like going to the gym, some people it's hiking, some people it's like crocheting and crafting, but like everyone has something. But I think it's so important to like find the thing that silences your brain, because it's like, it's such a good break from the brain saying shit
we
to you all the
need
time.
we need it.
Absolutely.
Also, like, it goes back to what I was saying at the beginning about doing different things. Just do things.
Yeah.
If you don't like it, it's fine. Leave it. Move on to the next thing. Like, just, like, we only live once in it. Like, just go for it.
And imagine, like, getting to 80 and being like, I wish I could have crocheted. I don't know why I keep going back to crochet, but like,
do you like crocheting?
No, I don't really. I just always think of it as like a hobby that's quite like mindful. So I'm always like, you know, like crochet. Like, but yeah, you don't want to get to 80 and then be like, oh, it would have been really cool if I spent more time outdoors.
Oh my gosh, no. Like, no. That's my worst nightmare, to like get to an old age, or even like if I died now, at least I can say I've been doing all the things that I love.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Like, why are we waiting for anything? Like, time is flying by.
Time is fucking flying.
Do not wait.
Yeah.
If there's something you want to do, just go and do it. Even if you haven't got anyone to go and do it with, just do it. Bite the bullet.
It's really hard, isn't it, to be like, go do it by yourself. But there's so much to take from doing stuff by yourself.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you never know that if you just went and did it, how much of a lighthouse you'd be for someone else to be like, I can do it. Like, I think you going outside and other people seeing that on your social media is like a big pull for lots of people around, especially like in our circle, I think. To be like, oh, I can just do it, or like, I can get outside. Like, even for me, you know, like on a Saturday afternoon when you're like posting, you're like, oh, I'm like 40k out in Brecon, like living my best life. I'm like, oh, I should really go outside. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like a huge thing to be like, all right, okay, well, Angharad's outside, so I'm going to be outside now. It's like you never know like how much of a lighthouse you're going to be just by you showing up somewhere and then documenting that thing, or just telling someone how much of an impact that's going to have to someone else that's like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm going to do that thing. Or maybe this means I'm going to do a thing.
Yeah.
Going back to the 100k walk.
Yeah.
I've written down 2 questions here. Or 3 questions, actually. But I think you've answered one of them. But my first question is, what was the highest point? Like, what was the bit where your brain was, like, singing in that 100k? Where you were like, okay, I feel really good. This is amazing.
Okay. So there was a bit where I'd been walking throughout the night, which was terrifying. But in a really good way. And the sun was starting to come up. and I was just coming off of the hill. So I just like climbed a big mountain and I was coming back down. And I was coming back down to just like meadows, and it was full of cows, and it was like tall grass. And I just like, it wasn't like a crazy scenic thing, like massive mountains. It was just fields. Oh. And the sun was coming up, and I was just like, I was by myself, been walking through the night by myself. And I stood there and I went, oh my gosh, I'm doing this. I'm in the flipping Lake District in nature, in my favourite, doing my favourite thing. And I'm like, this is just like, oh, do you know, like thinking about it, I'm just like, oh, it just brought me so much joy. And I actually was it completely in the moment. It was just like,
this is amazing.
This is the fucking best thing I've ever done.
It's like one of those moments where you're like, I wish I could bottle it up.
100%. Oh my gosh, if I could. Yeah.
And just revisit it whenever I can.
Yeah.
Oh, sounds amazing.
And then I had to go into the field with the cows, and then I was like, okay, this is not nice.
Immediately back to reality. Fuck these cows. My God. The thing when you get to those things on walks, right, this is a slight sidebar, but you know when you're like, well, they've made a footpath through this field.
It's got to be safe.
These cows can't attack me because they wouldn't have put a footpath in, and they wouldn't have put these cows on the footpath. But every time I'm like, today's the day.
Yeah.
I'm going to be the one statistic. Every year, 9 people are killed by cows. One of them is now me. Like, you know, you're like, yeah, like, but they wouldn't put them here if they weren't safe. Like, it's so stressful.
I just talk to them. I'm like, hi. Hope you're having a nice day.
Don't worry about me. I'm just coming through.
I'm a really nice person. I won't hurt you. It's fine.
I don't eat you. I'm vegan.
Oh, I do. That's worse.
I'm trying really hard to reduce my beef intake.
That's when I start to run.
I love that reality check. I'm having the highest moment of my entire life. This is amazing. Oh shit, there's a cow. So that leads me into my next question.
It wasn't one cow, it was loads of cows.
Oh, yeah. So this is my next question. What was the lowest low?
Oh gosh.
It was the minute I entered that field. And I thought, fuck.
No, okay, the lowest low. I think it was about 70k. It was actually not long after I had the best moment, in all honesty.
Way.
Yeah. So after that, like, through the night was incredible, even though it was terrifying. I had that moment where I was like, this is so fucking cool.
Yeah.
And then, it was about 16k after that, and I was just like so tired. I hadn't been to sleep since like 5 o'clock in the morning, and it was probably about like 7 a.m. by now. And the tiredness, it just got to me, and I was like, my feet were in absolute bits. My body was fine, but my feet were in bits, and I was just like, why have I done this? It was like the complete opposite of how I felt. Yeah, it's honestly, it was more of a mental challenge than it was physical for me this time. And I was like, I'm never doing this again. Never doing this again. And then I was like, no. I was telling myself off. I was like, no, we can still do this. Yeah. One foot in front of the other. Just stay awake. We've got this. Just keep moving. One more step. We're going to get closer every single time. But it was just like, I don't know. It was a weird low because it was like, it felt so hard. It's tiredness. I don't do well if I'm tired. I'm so nasty and grumpy when I'm tired to myself, you know.
Yeah.
There's lots of highs and lows because you'd hit low and then all of a sudden you'd be like, I got this, and then I'd start running.
It's like the exact opposite
of what I needed to do.
And now I'll run. My God.
But I just kept, do you know, it was weird because like the bit that I found hardest about it was after the night I kept thinking about walking in my head. I was picturing walking through the finish line.
Okay.
And every time it was bringing tears to my eyes.
Oh my God.
But it wasn't sad. It wasn't like a low.
Yeah.
Because it was such an emotional reaction I was getting from that mental image. But I was like, stop thinking about it. Because I hadn't cried, which is not like me. I cry all the time. I
Yeah.
love crying. I
Crying is
hadn't
the
cried.
best, to be fair.
But every time I thought about that, my eyes were watering, and I was like, no, don't think about it yet. Just it's going to happen. Like,
Yeah. One of your social media updates was like, I just can't read anyone's messages now because I'm crying. So it's not that I don't like you. It's just I'm crying. And then you're like, I can't do any more talking to camera because I'm crying. It's just got to one point where you're like, I'm just crying now.
It's because everyone was being so nice, though. And it was just like, it was such an overwhelming feeling because it felt surreal because I was so proud of myself.
Yeah.
I was like, I can't believe I'm doing this. It was like 30-degree heat through the day. It was rough. It was brutal. The floor is literally like walking on giant Lego, no shoes on, for 100k pretty much. Or maybe 80. Like there's some paths for some of it. And in my head, I was just like I am so proud of myself.
You should be.
But then having other people tell me they're proud of me, it was too much, man.
Yeah.
It was too much. I couldn't look at it. I just didn't want to know. Like, I'll just wait until I'm done and then I can read it and it'll be fine.
Cry at the end.
Because
It's fine.
I need to like keep my energy to keep walking. I can't cry.
Yeah. The tears
Not now.
are costing me energy that I desperately need at this point.
I've already sweated everything out of my body.
Oh my God.
I need these tears.
Please, I'll dehydrate.
Hydrate
Have you
me.
ever seen SpongeBob SquarePants? Where he comes out of the water. I think it's in the SpongeBob SquarePants movie and he just turns into like a folded like dry sponge.
That was me.
Like that's what I pictured in my head. It's just you like a dry sponge. Okay, so you've answered this question a little bit, but if this was just around like your motivation to like just keep putting one foot in front of the other. So
So with that as well, Noah, my son, he phoned me when I was probably about like 40-ish K in.
Yeah.
And he was just the sweetest. Like hearing him cheer me on, and honestly, like it was so much. Like it was too much for my heart. But I told him, I was like, Noah, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this for you. And then through it, then I was like, there's not a chance I'm not doing this now. I've told Noah I'm doing it. Like I'm
committed
doing
it
it
out loud. Yeah.
But from the start, it was in my head this time. Like I knew I trained for it, and in my head, I was like, I don't care if I have to crawl to the finish line.
I'm doing it.
Like I'm doing this. If it takes me, if I'm the last person to cross the finish line, like I am not stopping. Like I'm doing it, and I did.
Good.
I did.
It's so, Angharad, honestly, it's the coolest thing of all time. Like
class.
we're all really, really proud of you,
Thank
and you
you.
should be mega proud of yourself.
I
It's
am.
phenomenal. Yeah. So good. So we've covered your awesome 100k walk.
Yep.
And now we're going to move into the 3 things you wish you knew when you were younger.
Okay, this is really hard for me to just choose 3 things.
Yeah.
Because, oh my gosh, was there loads I wish I'd known. So my first one is...
You can do very broad ones that have lots of different branches if you want to.
Okay.
Yeah.
My first one is you don't have to do what everyone else is doing.
Yes. Okay.
In every single way. When you're a teen, it's so easy to just follow the crowd, do whatever your friends are doing, even if you don't like doing that. If you don't, they might be talking about things that you don't agree with, but you sit quietly or you join in because it's what you think you should do. Mm-hmm. Fuck that. Don't. Do it.
I'm soundbite. You going, fuck that. This is like, I was going to soundbite Amy Hill's get in the fucking bin thing and put that as a ringtone. And now I'm also going to do your fuck that.
I want to Amy Hill get in the fucking bin thing because it's the best thing ever.
Get in the bin. Yeah, fuck that.
Wear what you want. Listen to whatever music you want. Be whoever you want to be. And that is absolutely fine. Do you know your friends? They'll fucking love you just the way you are. And if they don't, then they're not your people. And I know that's really hard as a teen because you think that you have to be a certain way or whatever. You really don't. You really, really don't. It's wild.
I think it's really difficult to navigate when you're a teenager and then you have this massive epiphany later on in life and you're like, if only I'd lived my life like that
Yeah.
prior, I would be a total. So there is an element of being like, I think you do have to live through this like awkward, like, oh, how do I navigate this? To
Yeah.
know. But I think there's also like a whole thing of like, imagine being 14 and just being like, no, I don't agree with what you're saying. Or actually, I am going to wear what I want to wear.
Yeah.
And I don't give a shit what you say.
Yeah.
And if you know, like, you should have a group of friends that support you. And I think it is a good catalyst for being like, well, if they're going to question it or say nasty things, maybe I just need to move friends.
100%.
But it's really, I think it's a really tough one. But I think everyone's lessons so far have like been different versions of, you don't have to do what everyone else is doing.
Okay.
Which is really
That's
like,
cool.
you know, whether they packaged it up differently, but there's always an element of being like, just be yourself.
Yeah.
And don't apologize for it.
No.
Have you got any advice on that? Like how to just lean into it?
Honestly, no, not really. Like, I was the weird one growing up. You know, I dressed how I wanted to dress. Like, my friends growing up, they'd all be into drugs and things like that. And I'd still hang out with them, but I'd never do it myself. You just, I don't know, it's just something in you. You've just got to really love yourself enough to be able to just be okay with doing what you want to do.
Yeah.
But it's really hard as a teen. I mean, this is not helpful at all because it's not advice.
No, I actually think what you just said was really helpful. The idea of like loving yourself and valuing yourself so much is like the fuel to not giving in to peer pressure. And that's really big, like having like a really positive perception of yourself.
Yeah, and it's really hard. But I think as a teen, it's validation again, isn't it? We look for validation from everyone around us, our friends, our parents, teachers, whatever. We never actually think, oh, what do I like? What do I want to do? What's important to me?
Yeah.
But you're never too young to ask those questions or think about it.
Yeah.
So maybe my advice would be sit down and just think, who am I really?
Yeah.
And what do I want to put out into the world? For you, not for anybody else.
Yeah, exactly. I think just taking, I don't know, like 5 minutes just to really think about. So this, if you're listening to this and you're a teenager, you can now use this as your pause point. You can pause the podcast.
Yes.
And then be like, okay, I'm going to take 5 minutes to think about what I value.
Yeah, but you.
Yeah.
Forget anyone else's expectations of you. Mm-hmm. And really think about you as a person.
Yeah. And what would make you proud, I think. You know, like stuff that you're like, oh, I'd be proud if I did that. You know, like going back to your walk, the reason you did that, because you were like, this is going to make myself really proud of me.
Yeah.
And like being able to then also just think, okay, what actions do I do daily that make me really proud of myself? I want to like just embody that and take that forward. Even if it can literally be as simple as, what music do I actually really like? Am I just listening to certain bands or genres because my friends are listening to them? And then like being like, actually, yes or no. And then just doubling down on what you do like. Like,
hell yeah.
Even if that is a guilty pleasure. There's no guilty pleasures, but even if you're like, oh, I actually really like 80s synth music.
That's class.
Yeah, I know. I was like, I'm using it, but I fucking love it. Like, I actually had a conversation with Owen the other day being like, I just fucking love 80s. You know, with like Whitney Houston's I Want to Dance with Somebody.
Share.
Did
you just judge my choice in music?
Didn't judge it. I paused and went, not for me.
Fair.
That one not so
Not
much.
even. Do you believe in love of the love? Down, down.
Well, if it's on, I'll enjoy it, but I wouldn't put it on. Whereas Whitney Houston's I Want to Dance with Somebody, I'm like, I'm just going to take 5 and listen to that right now. That'd be great. But yeah, like just noticing that like there are certain stuff that's going to make you happy, and that might make you happy, but it might not make your friends happy. But it's fine. You don't have to disagree or fall out about it.
No.
You can like live in 2 different camps and still love each other.
Yeah.
It's huge. Like, I think that's a big thing around finding your identity, is that you often think that if you have stuff that people don't necessarily like or identify with, that means that you're not in that group anymore.
Yeah, which isn't true.
Which is not true.
No.
Like you said earlier, like if your friends love you, they'll love you no matter what you're wearing or what you like.
Yeah.
As if they'll like you for who you are. But yeah, I think in secondary school it's so like defined by your friendship groups, isn't it? That's sometimes a little bit difficult to navigate. But
Yeah, which actually brings me into my second one.
What a segue.
We've kind of touched on it though. My second one is your relationship with yourself is way more important than any other relationship. So it kind of links in a lot.
It does. It really does.
But this is from your teens, and even into adulthood as well. For me, like as a grown up now, I don't know if I'm a grown up.
Is it really hard to call yourself a grown up now?
Yeah.
Like,
am I
an adult? But I also think there's something when you get a bit older. So sorry, again, this is a sidebar, but something I've been learning really recently is that when you grow up, you're around other people that are the same age as you, and then you have this weird epiphany of being like, oh, I'm my parents' age. Like, my parents were this age.
Yeah.
And they also felt the way that I feel, which is, I haven't got a fucking clue what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But, like, everyone around you is also in that same boat. And then all of a sudden you have this epiphany of being like, I don't think grown-ups are grown-ups. Like, there's so many people like just learning to...
We're just winging it.
Completely. I actually had, like, this thing this week where I was like, I remember... a conversation my dad had with his friends. I remember listening to it as a kid and my dad saying, I'm turning 33. And I remember this conversation. So I'm not 33, but I had this epiphany of being like, I remember my dad talking to his friends when he was my age, being like, oh, I'm doing this or whatever. It was just such a mundane conversation, but I was like, oh my God, my dad was my age. You know, when you have this weird thing of being like, and I think he had a shit together. And now I'm like, yeah, he probably still doesn't have a shit together. But I think he's like a proper grown-up adult.
Yeah.
But the point is that we're not grown-ups.
No.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
You don't have to know the answers.
No.
But yeah, sorry, that was such a sidebar.
No, that's fine. I mean, for me, like, growing up, again, going back to just doing things for everyone else, not yourself. Like myself, I was always kind of like, from like 15, 16, I was always like in a relationship, out relationship, straight back into a relationship, out relationship. And I didn't know who I was. Like, I mean, this went all the way into adulthood. And for me, I always felt like I had to have someone who loves me, inverted commas.
Inverted commas. Inverted commas.
For me to feel kind of worthy. Which, looking back, like now, I'm like, Angz, what the fuck? What the fuck? Like, sorry to swear, but like...
No, carry on.
Like, why didn't anyone tell me that I could just, like, be on my own?
Yeah.
That I could just love myself?
Yeah.
Like, what?
Isn't it mad?
And now as a grown-up, I'm like, I've been single for over a year now, which is the longest. It sounds crazy, right? But this is the longest I've ever been single in my life, and it's been the best year ever. I love myself so much more. I probably loved myself more in the last year than I have done all my life.
Oh my God, that's mad. Isn't
Yeah,
it?
but now I know any relationships that I make, whether that's friendships, romantic relationships, or even, you know, relationships with my family, it's all better because I know my worth. That doesn't mean that some relationships are better off, because some relationships have actually grown apart or gotten worse, because now that I know my worth, I don't do things for everyone else. I do things for myself in a very unselfish way. Do you know what I mean?
No, but I think that's a thing that we need to take the stigma out of, is that doing things for yourself isn't selfish.
No, it's not. It's the complete opposite. I know self-love gets like thrown about a lot, but for me, I think it's the most important thing in the world.
Yeah.
Because if you genuinely can look in the mirror every day and go, I fucking love you,
That's
you're
really
amazing,
cool. Yeah.
then whatever you do in life, you'll be all right.
Yeah, completely.
Even if you fuck up, if you do mistakes, like none of us are perfect.
Yeah.
But that's the point. No, we're not perfect, but we're trying to be good humans.
Yeah.
And we're doing everything out of the goodness of our heart for ourselves first.
Yeah.
And then for other people.
Yeah, I couldn't agree anymore.
Mic drop.
Boom. Boom. Thank you for listening. That's it, it's done. I've got so many points on this. I think self-love can be problematic when it's performative. So when people are like, oh, I love myself. I find it really triggering on social media when you see very able-bodied, stereotypically beautiful cis women try and identify with self-love, posting pictures of roles that don't exist and things like that. And then I find that element of self-love quite cringy and triggering and really difficult to relate to, but it gets a lot of traction because it's quite like a...
But it's also quite fake, though.
Exactly.
Don't get me started on social media. It annoys me. I just want to say one thing, because I'm going off track now.
No, I like it.
Like, social media, it's all fucking fake. Like, there's it is, right? So, all of us, we're all guilty of it. I try my best to post the real versions of me.
Yeah. I think you're very good at that, by the way.
I try, but still, I'm not showing all of my bad days on there. There's more of my good days on there than my bad. I mean, there's plenty of stories of me crying my eyes out and losing it. Because I want people to see that it's fucking okay to just have feelings. Like, everyone has good days and bad days, but social media, it's all bullshit.
Yeah.
Nobody's life's that perfect.
No.
Like, it's not at all.
Yeah.
Like, people's relationships that look like they're the best relationships in the world, nah. They'll have bad days.
Exactly.
People who look incredible, nah. Filters.
Yeah.
Like, it's wild.
Yeah.
I hate social media.
See, I have I love social media. I think that social media has the power to do loads of good in terms of like education and knowledge.
Yeah.
But only if you can filter through the bullshit that you've just all mentioned.
Yeah.
But it's really difficult to do that. So like I've curated feeds that I think, I mean, there's one or two people on there I keep for the rage that they fill me with because it's quite therapeutic to just feel a rage that just doesn't need to be felt, but you're feeling it anyway. But like for the most part, it is full of like good news stories or like authenticity and things like that. But it's only in the last like year or two that I've curated that and like cut people out where I'm like, you're lying.
Yeah.
But even like now, we had a conversation the other week around being like, that's not the reality of what's being posted. And you're like, when you have those epiphanies of being like, that just doesn't exist.
No.
Like, or like that's not what they did or how they look and things like that. But you have to filter through it. And imagine being 14.
Oh, no.
And having access to that. It would be so overwhelming to be like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Like, we had magazines with
And
like
that was bad
terrible
enough.
content and photos and just pressures in. But now there's social media and it's literally 24/7. So yeah, I just want to say, like, just remember the things you see on social media, it's not the full picture at all. And I'm not saying it's bad, because there is so much good that can come from social media.
Yeah.
Like girls the front, for starters, isn't it?
Don't care.
But I just think as well, if people were more comfortable in being themselves, and if they had a better relationship with themselves, they could openly, like, I think I do it. I try to do it. If you can just be more authentic on social media, imagine more people did that.
Yeah.
How much of a better community and environment would we create, instead of just seeing everyone's highlights?
Yeah.
Just normal, having normal conversations about life and ups and downs, because life is always up and down, you know, like.
So like there's a thing that I want to do a post on. I don't know how to articulate it at the moment, but it's kind of similar. So it's like, so have you seen the outpouring of like support for Lewis Capaldi because he
Oh yeah,
because of
the
his Glastonbury set.
and,
Yeah, because he couldn't finish it.
Yeah.
So there's loads of people on my newsfeed sharing his statement and being like, oh, we love you, like, you know, we're all here for you, we all support you, and like sharing the video clips of like the set and being like, oh, I knew people there that were like, it was really special and it was like really amazing. But I'm like, but how many of you are like regularly checking in with your friends and like regularly checking in with yourself to be like, I'm going to give myself and other people around me in my close circle this much compassion and energy?
Yeah.
It's like a really interesting thing when you're like, oh, when celebrities say it, people are really like, oh, I'm gonna say I really support this and I think it's amazing. But like, you know, you're like, oh, you need to also check in with yourself on that as well.
Yeah.
And like the close people around you and just being like, oh, okay, it's also important that I recognize that people close to me might also be struggling or might also be putting a false persona on social media and all that sort of stuff. I'm just like,
it's like the Be Kind thing with Caroline Flack when she died. Everyone was posting be kind, be kind, be kind, and they're actually assholes in real life. I mean,
it's actions and values, isn't it? Like,
if you're going to be posting stuff like that on social media, take it into the real world. Be a fucking good human. Don't be an asshole.
Exactly. Live your life. And I have to check a lot of the time, being like, are my actions lining up with my values? Like,
oh my gosh, shush.
Like, but there are times where I go to say something. I definitely think you've witnessed it, where I've gone, and then I stop, and then I go, I can't say that because I've just ran it through the filter of why am I saying this, and then I say it anyway because someone's like, you have to tell me now. But you know, when you're like, sometimes you have to be like, oh, why my actions and my values aren't aligned up here? Like, this is really hard. Like, oh, I've said it anyway. Fuck. But yeah, it's like, just being authentic and trying to be true to you and stuff. Yeah. But yeah, no, I think that's really important. I try and, with the, like, loving yourself thing, I find it really hard myself to be like, you know, when you're talking about like what you look in the mirror and being able to be like, I love you. Like, I find that really hard. I don't know why. It's just like who I am. So I always run things through the filter. It's just a different way of looking at it, I think. But I always try and run things through the filter of like, am I doing something or am I approaching something in a way that a teenage Mickey would be proud of? And I always run stuff through that filter because I'm like, oh, okay, this is a different way of me trying to love myself now to be like, oh, would that person be proud of this person? So like trying to make a smaller version of myself proud all the time is like the way that I end up loving myself now. It's just a different way of looking at it.
It's a good thing to do with like your self-talk as well. And it's like, what would like young Angharad or young Mickey say if they hear me say this to them? How would they feel? Yeah. So if you catch yourself being like, oh, I don't like how I look today, or oh, I don't think I'm very good at this or whatever. And like, how do you think young Mickey would feel if you said that to her? Yeah. That's how I've started like loving myself, because I'm like, well, that's not very kind. So why am I saying that to myself now? Yeah. Like, no.
But I think you can apply this being a teenager as well. You can be like, would I say this to like a young, like even like would I say this to the like me 6 months ago? Yeah. Or would I say this to me now? Like I think it's a really good filter to run through. Yeah. Like, would you say this to a littler version of you? And also the RuPaul quote that is, if you can't love yourself, how the hell are you going to love somebody else? I think rings so true as well. Like, if you can't love yourself, how do you expect all your other relationships to thrive?
1000%.
Yeah, I think it's all very much linked together.
Yeah, it is.
Point 3.
My last one. 3. So this one, I feel it in my bones.
I've just read it.
I feel this in my bones. So basically, what feels like the end of the world isn't. When you're a teen, there will be multiple times in your life that you will feel like everything's messed up, everything's falling apart, nothing's gonna get better. Bullshit. Yeah. It does genuinely, as a teen. Like, I remember like so many times myself being like, that's it, my world's ended. But it's not. And like, it's not. Things always get better. And when you grow up then, like, grow up.
When you get older.
When you get older, you realise those things actually were tiny in the grand scheme of things. But it's like, you know, relationships or like first boyfriend. You break up. Oh my gosh.
Like, no one will ever love me again.
Literally.
I'm gonna die a spinster. Like, that's how you end up going to, because you're
Literally.
like, well, I was gonna get married to this person.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell?
No, but you genuinely believe
Yeah.
it. Like, as a young person, you genuinely believe it, and you think, that's it now? Hell no.
I know. Arguments with your friends.
Yeah. Oh, I go to friends. Or get, like, having bad grades in your exams. Like,
Oh, all this
just
sort of
all of
stuff.
it.
Oh,
and you
completely.
feel like it is the end of the world. And
It
it's
really
not.
is. My dad once gave me, God, Dean James getting quite a lot of airtime today on this podcast. My dad once gave me an amazing piece of advice. I used to have a friend that we used to fall out weekly, or like at least, I don't know, 6 times a month. It used to be ridiculous. And it always used to stem from just really petty stuff. And it was just like, you know, the toxic culture of being in secondary school, and like how girls end up interacting because of the pressures of being girls and wanting to attack each other and being horrible to each other.
Yeah.
If you're listening to this and you're in this cycle, girls, we need to support each other and love each other. Your best friend is not your enemy. Your best friend is there to support you. Like, do not listen to the bullshit that society pulls out. Like, we all need to pull together. Like, stick together. Don't slag each other off. Be supportive, empower each other. But anyway, me and my friend used to fall out all the time. And I always used to be the person that would call her after school and like grovel and apologize and be like, I'm so sorry. And I used to like keep myself up at night, like worried sick, like about going to school the next day. And one day my dad was like, this isn't the end of the world. Just let it go and see what happens. And I was like, I don't think I can do this. So I then was up worried all night for different reasons, but I didn't reach out, I didn't make contact. Like, and then in the end, she was like, oh, I'm really sorry. And I was like, oh my God, this wasn't the end of the world. And actually, the reality is that sometimes other people are in the wrong, and you don't always have to apologize. And it goes back to the relationships. Like, if you value yourself and you're like, I didn't do anything, this is this other person, then it holds fast, and you can be like, oh, okay, yeah, it wasn't me. But the idea that it wasn't the end of the world is the biggest thing.
It is.
Yeah.
At that age, 100%.
Everything does feel crushing, though.
Oh, it does. It's so hard to be a teen. Like, it's just so many big emotions.
Completely.
And everything just feels like your world feels small in a way. Cause it is, kind of.
Mm-hmm. And like, I think the exam results things that you mentioned, it's really hard not to think that way though, because when you're in school and your world is so small and you're being told that like your world will not expand if you get a C in this maths test, because you will not end up doing X, Y, and Z. And then you get to like 18 and you're like, well, no one's ever looked at my exam results. And then you get to 28 and no one's ever looked at your exam results. And you get to 38 and no one's ever given a shit. Like, and you're just like, oh, this was not the end of the world.
No.
And like, I feel like I have to say it quite a lot on Girls to the Front, being like, your value is not measured by a GCSE mock.
No.
Your parents are still going to love you if you fail it.
Yeah.
Like, but it goes back to failing, and as long as you've tried your best, you can't ask for anything more.
No.
Put everything in place.
Yeah.
And if the outcome isn't what you were hoping for, just dust yourself off and try again.
100%.
Or realise that thing's not for you. And just move on.
Exactly.
But yeah.
I think parents need to be a bit kinder as well, though.
Oh, so much.
I mean, they should know better.
I know.
No offense, guys. Sorry,
so like,
but
I'm
a parent, so like I know. But
like, I was like, I'm talking to myself. No, like it is like, yeah. I think expectations. You can see when people you've been through this.
Yeah.
You know,
just be kinder. Like it's so much. Like work hard at school, but does it actually really matter if you don't do that well?
Yeah.
No, you can do whatever you want in life and in the world.
Yeah.
I'm not saying drop out to school or whatever.
Oh my God, imagine now there's like 100
Maybe you need to cut
like,
this
oh,
out.
100 was a ballsy move for this podcast. Me being like, 100 people listen to this. But yeah, imagine we get those messages being like, oh, my kid now won't go to school.
Sorry, guys.
No, I'm fucking here for it. Fucking start your own school. Learn yourself.
No, I just mean like, you know, being a parent, I just think it's way more important for your kids to just be happy in life, and as long as they're trying to be good humans, that's all that should really matter. I know school matters, but like it doesn't really in the long run.
No,
And it's not the end of the world if
exactly.
you leave school and you've got no GCSEs. The world's massive. So much stuff you can do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. I just had to reset the camera because it only does 30 minutes at a time, and I was like, and now Angharad, you're going to pick a song. She's like, yeah, I haven't picked a song. But this is the thing. So now there's no expectations. You just got to pick one that's in your head.
This is like the hardest thing for me because I absolutely love music. And okay, I'm going to go with Lizzo Special.
Yes. This is the second time Lizzo is a feature.
Is it?
Yes.
Oh, go on, Lizzo.
I know.
Yes.
Well, I mean, she fits incredibly well with the ethos of this whole podcast movement, really.
She does. It was either going to be Lizzo Special or I Prevail Gasoline.
Do you know, I really thought, right, when I said to you, pick a song, I really thought you were going to be like, I Prevail or Bring Me the Horizon. And I was waiting for it. And then you went with Lizzo. And I thought, oh, yeah, of course.
Can I have two?
Yeah, you can fucking have two. I'll put two on the end of this
Let's play
podcast.
both of them.
And also, I really like it because it's two very different genres.
Yes.
Very different attitudes and
One
approaches.
is all about how we're all special, because
Yeah.
we are. And then the other is about wanting to burn the world down and kill everyone else with it. So enjoy.
And I really feel like this sums up Angharad perfectly. If you spend any time with Angharad, I feel like you flip between thinking everything is magic and amazing. And I love both versions of this because it's so authentic. Magic, and you love everyone, and everyone's just such an asset in your life. And then the other person is, fuck you all. I want to ghost you all. I'm going into the mountains.
Literally.
Like, they are the two spectrums, but I think it's what makes you an incredible human.
It's the best way to be.
I
All or
completely
nothing.
agree.
All or nothing.
Yeah, and you're allowed to be both at the
Yeah.
same time. You're allowed to be extroverted and introverted. You're allowed to want to be around people and also be by yourself. All of these things make you a good human.
Yep.
So yeah,
Thank you.
just be kind and be happy, and that.
Yeah.
I think that's the key message here.
Yeah. Don't
like-
burn the world down.
But
or
if you
kill
do,
anybody.
take everyone with you.
If you are going to do it, listen to Lizzo whilst you do it.
So what you're
cut
saying
this
is, I Prevail starts the catalyst in being like, fucking burn it. And then you're like, but while I do, I listen to Lizzo. In case no one told you today.
Yes, special.
Well, everyone's
Only,
on fire.
literally only human left.
Oh my god, it would be the best apocalypse ever. Just like, there's like a shelter of people that have managed to stand there like, can you hear Lizzo? Was she playing Lizzo? When
Oh
she
no,
destroys the
the
world?
end is coming. I can hear Lizzo.
That's it now. It's going to be a trigger song for so many people. They can be like, Lizzo's playing.
That's funny.
Well, thank you so much, Angharad. This has been an absolute joy and a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
Have you got anything else you want to say?
No, just
Perfect.
go out there. Don't be a dick. Love yourself.
Fucking love that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Right.
Love you.
Love you.